Have you ever heard the kind of sports legend that seems more like a haunting ballad than a highlight reel, where triumph and tragedy intertwine so closely you can't tell where one ends and the other begins? Imagine the roar of thousands at Maple Leaf Gardens, the puck sliding across the ice in sudden death overtime, and a young defenseman who leaps into the spotlight with a game-winning goal. Then, just months later, that same hero disappears without a trace, leaving behind an unsolved mystery that still echoes in hockey folklore. Today we're diving headfirst into the story of Bill Barilko, the promising Toronto Maple Leafs star who vanished after scoring one of the most dramatic goals in NHL history, a legend woven from a single unforgettable victory, and a disappearance that still grips the imagination of fans and adventurers alike. Born in Timmins, Ontario, Bill Barilko grew up like so many Canadian kids. Skates on his feet as soon as he could walk, a rink in every backyard, hockey at the heart of every winter day. He wasn't a prodigy or a household name right away, but scouts noted his tenacity, a young defenseman who played a fearless brand of hockey, undeterred by bigger opponents or the bright lights of the city. By 1947, he was wearing the blue and white jersey of the Toronto Maple Leafs, an iconic franchise that expected excellence on every shift. Barilko was the type of player who didn't just chase the puck, he hunted it down like a man on a mission. If the Maple Leafs were already a proud institution, Barilko's arrival added a jolt of youthful swagger. He wasn't the biggest name on the roster, but he had a knack for stepping up when it mattered most, blocking crucial shots, digging pucks out of corners, and making the kind of heads-up plays that turned defense into offense in a heartbeat. Coaches praised his grit, while teammates trusted that if there was a scramble at the net, Bash-in Bill would be in the thick of it. Toronto fans, quick to crown new heroes, embraced him as a beloved underdog. Fast forward to the spring of 1951. The Maple Leafs entered the Stanley Cup final against their fierce rivals, the Montreal Canadiens. It was a best-of-7 series, and these two original six giants were locked in a tight dance of skill and will. For the Leafs, capturing another cup would solidify their reputation as a dynasty, while the Canadiens sought to reclaim hockey supremacy. The series was electric, with every game going into overtime, a testament to how razor-close the competition was. The tension in Maple Leaf Gardens was palpable. Fans clung to every scoring chance, every near miss, every miraculous save. Then came Game 5, an overtime thriller that seemed destined to etch someone's name into history. The crowd's roar ascended into a fever pitch as the puck dropped for the extra frame. Everyone on the ice felt that if they blinked, they might miss the moment that decided the champion. Minutes ticked by, the pressure mounting until finally, it happened. Barilko, charging in from the blue line, spotted his chance. A loose puck found its way to him, and he launched a shot that soared past the outstretched goaltender, lighting the lamp for a sudden death victory. In that instant, Maple Leaf Gardens erupted in pandemonium. The Leafs were Stanley Cup champions once again, and Bill Barilko, a humble defenseman with a knack for rising to the occasion, was the man of the hour. Photographers captured the moment, immortalizing the look of pure joy as his teammates engulfed him in celebration. But fate can be eerily cruel. Just 4 months after that cup-winning heroics, Barilko took off on a fishing trip with a friend, Dr. Henry Hudson. They boarded a small plane, looking forward to a bit of off-season relaxation in northern Ontario's rugged wilderness, an area known for pristine lakes but also dense forests and unpredictable weather. Nobody could have guessed that Bill Barilko, fresh off the pinnacle of hockey glory, was about to vanish. When the plane failed to return on schedule, local authorities and rescue teams launched a frantic search, scouring vast swaths of forest. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Not a shred of wreckage, not a single clue emerged. The Leafs star had simply disappeared. At first, fans in Toronto clung to hope. Maybe Barilko and his friend had run into mechanical trouble, but they could still emerge from the wilderness at any moment. Yet the harsh reality of northern Ontario's unforgiving terrain soon set in. Speculation ran wild. Some claimed the plane must have crashed into a remote lake. Others whispered about sabotage or some bizarre plot that had lured Barilko into a deadly trap. But no matter the theory, no evidence surfaced to confirm or dispel it. Hockey fans and the press were left in a state of stunned disbelief. How could the hero who scored the cup-winning goal vanish off the face of the earth? In the seasons that followed, Barilko's absence cast a long shadow over the Maple Leafs. Though a storied franchise with multiple championships under its belt, the team found itself in a curious drought. They couldn't seem to recapture the magic that had propelled them to victory in 1951. Rumors took on a near mythic quality. Some fans whispered about a Barilko curse, suggesting that the Leafs wouldn't taste Stanley Cup glory again until his disappearance was resolved. As the years dragged on, the legend only deepened. Stories circulated about hunters who claimed to have stumbled upon pieces of twisted metal in the woods, or fishermen who spotted a plane submerged in a remote lake, yet nothing conclusive ever materialized. Finally, in 1962, 11 long years after the plane vanished, came the break that put an end to the mystery. A pilot flying over the dense forest region happened to spot wreckage from the air. Ground crews made their way to the crash site and confirmed what many had feared. It was the remnants of Barilko's plane, with the remains of both him and Hudson inside. The find sent shockwaves through Ontario and the hockey community. It was the answer to a question that had hung in the air for over a decade, but one that brought bittersweet closure to fans and family alike. In a twist that seemed almost scripted by the hockey gods themselves, the Maple Leafs ended their Stanley Cup drought that very year, capturing the title once again, just weeks after Barilko's body was found. Toronto newspapers ran headlines tying the discovery of Barilko's plane to the lifting of a curse. Whether it was coincidence or some poetic alignment of fate, believers in sports superstitions seized on the moment, proclaiming that the hero's spirit could finally rest, allowing the Leafs to reclaim their championship pedigree. Even decades later, Bill Barilko's story resonates in hockey lore. His number 5 was eventually retired by the Maple Leafs, a permanent tribute to the man who gave the franchise one of its greatest triumphs, only to disappear before the next season began. The famous Canadian band The Tragically Hip immortalized Barilko's saga in the song 50 Mission Cap, weaving his fate into a haunting tune that echoes in arenas and radio stations across the country. It's as if Barilko's legend refuses to remain locked in history, resurfacing whenever discussions of unexplained vanishings or iconic hockey moments arise. To this day, fans still debate elements of the story. Could rescue efforts have been more extensive? Was there any plausible chance Barilko survived the initial crash, only to succumb later in the harsh wilderness? Did the emotional impact of his disappearance tangibly affect the Leafs' performance in the following seasons? While most of the evidence points to a tragic crash with little room for conspiracy, the sense of mystery endures. The wilderness of northern Ontario is vast, and the circumstances surrounding that final flight were never fully dissected like a modern investigative case might be. What we do know is that Bill Barilko is far more than just a missing athlete. He's a symbol of fleeting glory, of a life that soared to the pinnacle of sport in a single overtime shot, only to vanish in a way that defies comprehension. Each spring, when fans gather at Scotiabank Arena to cheer on the Leafs, there's a subtle undercurrent of Barilko's memory woven into the fabric of the franchise's identity. After all, he remains one of the last Maple Leafs to deliver a cup-winning goal, a testament to a simpler era of hockey, defined by short rosters, small paychecks, and massive hearts. Maybe that's why his story still captivates us. There's an inherent romance to the idea of a hero frozen in time, forever 24, forever victorious, never having to cope with the decline that inevitably greets aging athletes. Instead, Barilko's image, grinning in black and white photos, belongs to an eternal youth. He's the young defenseman who believed in himself enough to jump into the play in overtime, who wasn't afraid to shoot for greatness, and who left behind a mystery that has outlived many of his contemporaries. So, did Bill Barilko's disappearance truly cast a curse on the Maple Leafs? Or was it merely a curious coincidence that they failed to win another cup until the exact year his plane was found? Maybe that's for every fan and every believer in sports folklore to decide for themselves. But one thing's certain, Barilko's story transcends the usual boundaries of sports history. It's a bittersweet reminder that sometimes the line between triumph and tragedy is razor thin, and we never quite know how history will remember its heroes once the final buzzer sounds. Let us know what you think in the comments. Was Barilko's disappearance the greatest unsolved mystery in NHL history? Or have we simply turned a tragic accident into a myth that amplifies his legacy? However you feel, one fact remains. Bill Barilko's name is etched into the annals of hockey lore, not just for the goal he scored, but for the void he left behind. And as long as the Toronto Maple Leafs exist, and as long as fans belt out the words to 50 Mission Cap, his tale will continue to echo, a haunting, heroic ballad that captures the very essence of what sports myths are made of.